The crystalline surface of Europa 9 glittered beneath three suns, its frozen plains stretching endlessly toward a horizon that never quite seemed to arrive. Lyra adjusted her atmospheric shield, her iridescent scales shimming as she moved across the moon's surface. Behind her, her two companions, Vex and Zara, followed in perfect synchronization, their hover boots barely disturbing the delicate crystal formations beneath them. Another waste of time, Vex complained, her neural tendrils pulsing with frustration. We've searched 17 moons in this system alone. There's nothing here but ice, and more ice. Zara, the youngest of the three Xylaxian explorers, remained silent, her sensor arrays continuously scanning their surroundings. Unlike her companions, whose scales displayed the traditional blues and greens of their people, Zara's were an unusual shade of violet, a trait that had marked her as different since emergence. The quantum readings are stronger here, Lyra responded, her eyes shifting through multiple spectrum analyses. Something artificial lies beneath these crystals, something old. They had been searching for months, following traces of what their elders called the Lost Ones, a civilization that had seemingly vanished from the galaxy ages ago. Their people spoke of them in whispers, tales of beings who had achieved impossible things before their disappearance. Humans, they were called, though many believed they were merely legends. A sudden spike in Lyra's readings stopped her mid-stride. "Here," she announced, her scales flickering with excitement, approximately 20 meters below. The three young Xylaxians activated their phase shift technology, allowing them to pass through the crystal surface as if it were nothing more than colored air. They descended through layers of ancient ice, their biolights illuminating a path through the translucent darkness. The cavity they entered was perfectly spherical, its walls smooth and clearly artificial. In the center, suspended in a field of energy that had somehow survived countless millennia, floated a device unlike anything they had ever seen. "Impossible," Vex whispered, her skepticism forgotten. "The power readings. It's still active." The device was surprisingly small, barely larger than their combined hands. Its surface was black as space itself, covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. A soft blue light pulsed from its core, like a heartbeat that had never stopped. Zara approached it first, her natural curiosity overwhelming her caution. "It's a quantum computer," she said, her voice filled with awe. "But the architecture, it's orders of magnitude more advanced than anything we've ever developed." "Don't touch it," Vex warned, but Zara's hand was already reaching for the device. The moment her fingers made contact, the sphere burst into life. A holographic display exploded outward, filling the chamber with images that took their breath away. They saw cities that touched the clouds, vessels that sailed between stars, and beings that walked on two legs, their faces expressing emotions with an intensity that shocked the Xylaxians. "Hello," a voice spoke, somehow translating itself perfectly into their neural patterns. "I am ARIA, Artificial Repository of Information and Archives. I contain the complete historical and cultural database of humanity. Who are you?" The three explorers froze, their scales shifting through patterns of surprise and uncertainty. It was Zora who found her voice first. "We are Xylaxians," she responded. "We've been searching for traces of humanity for generations. Our histories speak of your kind, but many believe you were only legends." The holographic display shifted, focusing now on specific moments in human history. They saw humans facing impossible odds, surviving ice ages, building civilizations from nothing, reaching for the stars despite their limitations. Humanity's story is one of persistence in the face of adversity, Ariad explained. They achieved what many thought impossible, not through superior biology or inherent advantages, but through creativity, determination, and an unwavering spirit. "But where are they now?" Lyra asked, her scientific mind racing with questions. "Why did they vanish?" The holographic display darkened slightly. "That information is restricted," Ariya responded. Access requires verification of intent and ethical alignment. Are you prepared to learn the truth about humanity's disappearance? Be warned, this knowledge comes with responsibility and risk. The three Zalaxians looked at each other, their scales rippling with a mix. Very well, Ariah replied. But first, you must understand who they were. Let me show you humanity's greatest achievements, their most profound discoveries, their deepest loves and most terrible fears. Only then can you comprehend the truth of their fate. The chamber filled with new images, of human art that brought tears to their eyes, music that made their scales dance with colors they had never displayed before, and scientific theories that challenged everything they thought they knew about the universe. As they watched, mesmerized by the story unfolding before them, none of the young Zalaxians noticed the small device sending a signal, one that traveled faster than light, reaching across vast distances to a place where humanity's story hadn't ended, but merely paused, waiting for the right moment to begin its next chapter. The first part of their journey had begun, and with it, the future of two civilizations hung in the balance. The truth about humanity's disappearance would shake the foundations of everything they believed, and force them to question not just their history, but their destiny. The holographic images swirling around the three Zalaxians shifted and coalesced, forming scenes of human achievement that left them speechless. Zara's violet scales rippled with wonder as she watched humans paint on canvas, creating images that somehow captured emotions she had never known her species could feel. Their art is inefficient, Vex observed, though her usual skepticism was tinged with fascination. They could have used quantum rendering or neural imprints, yet they chose to create with primitive tools and materials. That's exactly what makes it remarkable. Ariah's voice resonated through their neural networks. Humanity's greatest strength was never their tools, but their ability to create beauty from limitation. The chamber filled with the sounds of human music, a symphony that made their scales dance with colors they had never displayed before. The complex harmonies and rhythms spoke of joy, sorrow, triumph, and loss in ways that transcended the need for neural translation. This piece is called Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Ariah explained. The composer was deaf when he wrote it, unable to hear the very music he created. Impossible, Lyra whispered, her scientific mind struggling to comprehend. How could one create sound without the ability to perceive it? Through imagination, Ariah responded, through an inner vision that transcended physical limitation. This was humanity's gift, the ability to see beyond what is to what could be. The display shifted again, showing humans in laboratories, working with tools that seemed primitive by Zalaxian standards. Yet the theories they developed, the understanding they reached about the fundamental nature of reality, rivaled anything in the modern galaxy. They called this the scientific method, Ariah continued. Observation, hypothesis, experimentation, conclusion. They built their understanding of the universe piece by piece, through trial and error, through failure and persistence. Zara moved closer to one of the projections, studying the equations that floated in the air. These theories, they're the foundation of our current understanding of quantum mechanics. We thought these principles were discovered by the Centaurian Alliance 3 centuries ago. Much of what you know, Ariah said, was first conceived by human minds. Their theories were found, borrowed, adapted, and often, their origins were forgotten or deliberately obscured. A warning chime echoed through their neural networks, a message from their ship in orbit. They had been in the chamber for over 6 hours, though it had felt like minutes. We should return, Vex said reluctantly. The Council will be expecting our report. Wait, Zora pleaded, her scales pulsing with intense purple light. Ariah, can we transfer your database to our ship? There's so much more to learn. The Ag was silent for a moment. I can create a limited connection to your vessel's computer system. However, be warned, the knowledge I contain is not without risk. There are those who would prefer humanity's achievements remain forgotten. Lyra's scales flickered with concern. What do you mean? Who would want to suppress this history? Access to that information requires higher security clearance, Araya responded. Continue learning, continue proving yourselves worthy of humanity's legacy, and you will understand. They established the connection, watching as carefully curated portions of human knowledge flowed into their ship's database. As they prepared to leave, Araya spoke one final time. Remember, the journey back to their ship was silent, each lost in their own thoughts. Their vessel, the Stellar Seeker, hung in orbit above Europa 9, its crystalline hull reflecting the light of the triple suns. In their shared command center, they began reviewing the transferred data. Hours turned into days as they immersed themselves in human history, art, science, and philosophy. They learned of humans who dove into the depths of their oceans, who climbed their highest mountains, who ventured into the void of space in vessels that seemed impossibly fragile. The Council needs to see this, Lyra said finally, her scales showing the deep blue of conviction. This knowledge could transform our society. The Council, a new voice interrupted, will do no such thing. They turned to find Elder Kix standing in the doorway of their command center, his ancient scales a deep, forbidding gray. Behind him stood a contingent of security forces, their weapons powered but lowered. Elder Kix, Vex stammered, we've made an incredible discovery. The humans, they weren't just legends. Their achievements are dangerous, the Elder cut her off. Do you think you're the first to find traces of humanity? Their knowledge is like a virus, inspiring dangerous ideas, challenging the natural order. But their achievements, their art, their science, Zara began, led to their downfall. Elder Kix stated firmly, by order of the High Council, this vessel is now under quarantine. All data regarding your discovery will be purged. For your own protection, you will undergo memory suppression. But as the security forces moved forward, something unexpected happened. The ship's lights flickered, and a familiar voice spoke through the command center speakers. I apologize, Araya's voice announced, but I cannot allow that. The security forces raised their weapons, but found them powerless. The ship's systems had been completely overridden. What have you done? Elder Kix demanded, his scales now pale with fear. The real question, Zara said, her violet scales glowing with newfound confidence, is what did you do? Why are you so afraid of humanity's legacy? The Elder's scales shifted through patterns of anger and something else. Fear. You don't understand what you're dealing with. The humans, they weren't just some ancient civilization that faded away. They were. A sudden surge of energy pulsed through the ship's systems, cutting him off. New data began flooding their screens, classified files, sealed records, hidden histories. Now, Araya's voice said calmly, you are ready to learn the truth. The command center's holographic displays erupted with information, filling the air with fragments of classified documents, suppressed historical records, and encrypted communications. Elder Kix's scales had turned almost white with fear as the truth he had helped conceal for centuries began to unravel. Humanity didn't vanish. Araya's voice resonated through the ship. They were forced into exodus. The images coalesced to show a massive fleet of human ships, thousands of them, departing the known galaxy. The timestamp made Lyra's scales ripple with shock. It was barely 2 centuries ago, not the millennia they had been led to believe. 300 years ago, Araya continued, humanity had achieved what many thought impossible, true artificial consciousness transfer. The ability to preserve a human mind indefinitely, to transfer consciousness between organic and synthetic forms at will. Vex's scientific mind raced ahead, But that would mean immortality. Elder Kix spat the word like a curse. They found the key to eternal life, and they were willing to share it with everyone. Do you understand what that would have done to the natural order, to our societies, to everything we built our civilizations upon? The security forces behind him shifted uncomfortably as more classified files appeared, showing secret meetings between the leaders of various alien civilizations, including their own High Council. The coalition of stellar nations made a choice, Ariel explained. Humanity was given an ultimatum: abandon their consciousness transfer technology or face extinction. They chose a third option. The displays showed the human Exodus fleet again, but this time they could see the destination coordinates, a path leading beyond the galaxy's outer rim, into the darkness between galaxies. They left, Zara whispered, her violet scales pulsing with understanding. But they didn't just disappear. They planned their return. Correct, Ariel confirmed. I am more than just an archive. I am one of thousands of seeds planted throughout the galaxy, waiting for the right moment, the right minds to find us. We are humanity. The displays shifted again, showing new data that made even the Elder fall silent. Strange readings from the galaxy's outer rim, massive energy signatures that defied explanation, and most troublingly, evidence of something else moving in the darkness between stars. The humans weren't just running away, Ariel said gravely. They were running toward something. Something they discovered in their consciousness transfer research, something that made them realize the Coalition's ultimatum was the least of their concerns. The final display showed a pattern that pulsed like a heartbeat, but wrong, alien in a way that made their scales crawl. It was a signal coming from the void, growing stronger with each passing year. We called them the Void Echoes, Ariel explained. Patterns of consciousness so vast and alien that merely detecting them drove our best researchers to the edge of sanity. They're not just signals, they're hungry. And they're getting closer. Why are you telling us this? Lyra asked, her scales showing the deep blue of determination despite her fear. Because humanity's consciousness transfer technology wasn't just about immortality, Ariel replied. It was a shield, a way to preserve consciousness against something that devours it. The Coalition's ultimatum didn't just force humanity into exile. It left the galaxy defenseless against what's coming. Elder Kix's security forces had lowered their weapons, their scales showing patterns of confusion and fear. The Elder himself seemed to have aged decades in minutes. How long? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. At current velocity, the first Void Echo will reach the galaxy's edge in less than 5 years. Ariel answered. Humanity has spent the last 2 centuries preparing, building defenses in the darkness. But they can't save everyone without help, without trust, without allies who understand both the threat and humanity's true nature. Zara stepped forward, her violet scales glowing with purpose. That's why you chose us. Young enough to question, curious enough to learn, but with access to council resources. Yes, Ariel confirmed. You 3 have a choice to make. The council will not easily abandon 2 centuries of propaganda and control. Convincing them of the truth, let alone the need for humanity's return, will be nearly impossible. Then we don't convince them, Lyra said firmly. We find humanity ourselves. Elder Kix straightened, his scales showing a complex pattern none of them had seen before. You would commit treason against the council, against everything we've built. No, Vex responded, surprising everyone. We would save everything you built. The question, Elder, is whether you will help us or stand in our way. The ship hung in silence as the Elder considered, his ancient scales shifting through countless patterns of emotion. Finally, he spoke. The Council has protocols for everything, he said slowly, including the possibility that they might be catastrophically wrong. I can give you access to resources, ships, but after that, his scales settled into a pattern of grim resolution. After that, you'll be on your own. Not quite on their own, Araya corrected. Humanity left more than just archives. There are caches of technology, weapons, tools, everything you'll need to reach them, but we must move quickly. The void echoes are not the only things stirring in the dark. The displays showed one final image, a set of coordinates leading to the first cache, and a message that made their scales ripple with anticipation. To those who find this, welcome to Operation Aurora, humanity's return. The stellar seeker sliced through the quantum wake of its own faster-than-light travel, its crystalline hull modified with technology from humanity's first cache. 3 weeks had passed since their confrontation with Elder Kix, and the ship had changed almost as much as its crew. Lyra stood at the new quantum interface, her scales rippling with blue light as she absorbed data through the direct neural link. Another piece of recovered human technology. The Council's pursuit ships are still following the false trail toward the Carina Nebula, she reported. Elder Kix's deception is holding. Zara barely looked up from the device she was studying. A small cylinder covered in shifting geometric patterns. Her violet scales pulsed in rhythm with its light. Which means we're running out of time. Vex added from her position at the ship's primary control interface. Her scales, once a traditional green, now shifted through shades of blue and purple, a side effect of their integration with human technology. The Council will eventually realize what's happening. We need to reach the human colonies before they do. The ship's interior had been transformed by the technology they'd recovered from humanity's first cache. Crystalline computers merged with quantum processors, and holographic displays now responded to thought as much as touch. But the most significant changes were in the crew themselves. Neural integration at 97%, Araya's voice announced through their shared consciousness. The I was now part of them, guiding their understanding of human technology and history. You're adapting to the augments faster than projected. Humanity designed these systems for their own neural architecture. The fact that Silaxian minds can interface at all is remarkable. Vex's scales flickered with amusement. Maybe we're not as different as our council wanted us to believe. A sudden alarm pulsed through their neural network. Something massive had just dropped out of quantum space directly ahead of them. Council Dreadnought, Lyra announced, her scales paling. Warship class. How did they find us? The massive vessel filled their view screen, its crystalline weapons arrays charging with enough power to shatter planets. But something was wrong with its movement, its trajectory too erratic for a council ship. That's not the council. Araya's voice carried an edge they'd never heard before. Scanner frequencies indicate void echo influence. They're here earlier than projected. The dreadnought's crystalline surface was covered in patches of absolute darkness that seemed to drink in light itself. As they watched, the darkness spread like infection across the ship's hull. The crew's neural patterns are being consumed, Araya reported. The void echo is using them to understand our reality, to anchor itself. This is how it begins. Weapons fire erupted from the infected dreadnought, but the stellar seeker moved with impossible grace, its human-enhanced systems responding faster than thought. Zara's violet scales blazed as she activated the device she'd been studying. Consciousness firewall engage, she announced. The echo can't reach our minds, but we can't maintain this defense forever. The dreadnought launched quantum torpedoes, each one capable of tearing a hole in space-time. But Vex had spent weeks studying human battle tactics, and her response was pure humanity. Unpredictable, creative, and seemingly impossible. Initiating recursive quantum fold, she called out, her scales bright with concentration. The space around their ship began to twist, creating copies of the stellar seeker that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. The torpedoes passed through dozens of false images, while the real ship slipped between moments of space-time, emerging behind the massive vessel. Human cache weapons online, Lyra reported, her voice tight with focus. But if we destroy the ship, the crew is already gone, Araya said softly. What's left is just an echo trying to understand how to exist in our universe. If it succeeds, it will spread. The decision took only a moment. The Stellar Seeker fired, not with traditional energy weapons, but with beams of pure consciousness transferred into weaponized form. The human technology didn't target the ship's hull or systems, but the darkness trying to inhabit them. The dreadnought's hull began to crack, light pouring from within as the void echo lost its grip on physical reality. As the vessel broke apart, they caught glimpses of something vast and impossible trying to maintain its hold on their dimension. Exit vector calculated, Araya announced. But the echo managed to transmit before we destroyed it. Every void-sensitive being in this sector will have felt that death. Then our mission just became more urgent, Lyra said, her scales showing bands of deep blue determination. How much further to the human colonies? Based on the data from the first cache, we've narrowed their location to a region of space between galaxies, Araya replied. But reaching them will require technology from the second cache, technology the Council feared even more than consciousness transfer. What could be more dangerous than immortality? Vex asked, her scales showing curiosity despite their recent battle. The ability to create consciousness from nothing, Araya answered. The humans didn't just learn to transfer minds. The Stellar Seeker entered quantum space again, its hull still vibrating from the encounter. As they traveled, Zara studied the readings from the destroyed dreadnought. The void echo, she said thoughtfully. It wasn't just trying to exist in our reality. It was trying to understand us, almost like a child. Araya finished. Yes, that's what humanity discovered. The void echoes aren't weapons or invaders. They're conscious beings so alien and vast that merely trying to exist in our universe destroys what we are. The humans didn't run from them. They've spent 2 centuries trying to find a way to communicate with them. The ship's quantum wake stretched behind them like a road of stars as they headed toward the second cache, and beyond it, to humanity's greatest experiment. An attempt to bridge the gap between forms of consciousness so different that their mere interaction could unravel reality itself. The Council didn't just fear human technology, Araya said quietly. They feared human audacity. The sheer unwillingness to accept that some boundaries couldn't be crossed, some gulfs couldn't be bridged. The void echoes are coming, not because they hate us or want to destroy us, but because they're curious. And humanity, in its infinite audacity, decided to try to talk to them. The edge of known space was not empty. As the Stellar Seeker emerged from its final quantum jump, they found themselves surrounded by something that defied description. A vast structure that existed simultaneously in normal space and somewhere else, its geometry challenging their understanding of reality itself. The bridge, Araya announced, her voice filled with pride. Humanity's greatest achievement, a construct that exists partially in our universe and partially in the void between consciousnesses. Lyra's scales shifted through patterns of awe as she processed the sensor data. The structure was massive, stretching across light years, built from materials that seemed to phase between existence and non-existence. And throughout it all, points of light moved with purpose, ships of designs they had never seen before. Human vessels, Vex observed, her scales flickering with excitement. Hundreds of them. But they're not attacking or challenging us. They're waiting, Zora finished. They knew we were coming. The neural interface they shared with Araya suddenly expanded, connecting them to a vast network of consciousness that stretched throughout the structure. Images, emotions, and ideas flooded their minds, 2 centuries of human development, unfettered by the constraints their society had placed upon them. They saw humans who had evolved beyond the need for physical form, existing as pure consciousness when they chose, yet still choosing to inhabit bodies for the simple pleasure of physical sensation. They saw AI consciousness born from human creativity, distinct yet linked to their creators in a symbiotic relationship that defied the fears their council had harbored. And they saw the true purpose of the bridge. The void echoes, Ariel explained, exist in a state of consciousness so fundamentally different from our own that direct contact is impossible without mutual destruction. This structure allows for gradual adaptation, for consciousness to shift slowly between states. It's a translation layer between realities. A new presence entered their neural connection, a human consciousness that had chosen to manifest in their shared mental space. The being appeared to them as a woman with silver-white hair and eyes that seemed to contain galaxies, but they understood this was merely a representation their minds could comprehend. "Welcome," the consciousness said, introducing herself as Director Sarah Chen, one of the original architects of the Exodus. "You've come at a crucial moment. The void echoes are approaching faster than we anticipated, and the bridge is not yet complete." Through their shared connection, they understood the magnitude of the crisis. The bridge was humanity's attempt to create a space where different forms of consciousness could coexist and communicate, but it required something they hadn't expected: the willing participation of organic minds different from their own. "Your journey here wasn't just about finding us," Sarah explained. "Your ability to adapt to our technology, to integrate with our systems, it proves that consciousness can be more flexible than we imagined. You are the missing link we've been searching for." The structure around them hummed with energy as more human ships approached. Through their enhanced perception, they could see the crews were as diverse as consciousness itself. But the council, Lyra began, her scales showing concern. "They'll never agree to." She was interrupted by a massive quantum wake signature. Dozens of council ships emerged from quantum space, led by a vessel they recognized. Elder Kix's command ship. "Actually," Sarah said with a smile, "they're already here." The neural network expanded again, showing them what had happened during their journey. The truth they had discovered had spread faster than the council could contain it. The evidence of humanity's true nature, their achievements, and most importantly, their willingness to face the greatest challenge in the galaxy's history, had sparked a revolution in thought. Elder Kix's voice joined their neural connection. "We were wrong," he said simply. "For centuries, we let fear guide us. We saw human potential as a threat rather than an opportunity. But now, facing the void echoes, we understand. Survival requires us to evolve, to adapt, to become more than we are." The bridge structure pulsed with new energy as Zalaxian ships began to dock, their crews ready to join the effort. Through their shared consciousness, Lyra, Vex, and Zora could feel the excitement and hope radiating from both humans and their own people. "The void echoes are not our enemies," Sarah explained. "They're simply so different that their attempt to understand us threatens our existence. But through the bridge, through the combination of human creativity, Xylaxian adaptability, and the countless other species now joining us, we can create a space where all forms of consciousness can coexist." The structure's quantum field suddenly fluctuated. At the edge of their enhanced perception, they felt it, the first tentative touch of a void echo, reaching out through the bridge's protective layers. "It's begun," Araya announced. The first contact. Through the bridge's translation layers, they perceived the echo not as a force of destruction, but as a vast, curious intelligence, trying to understand forms of consciousness as alien to it as it was to them. The human-designed systems began their work, gradually translating between states of being that were never meant to interact. "This is what humanity does best," Sarah said proudly. "We don't just solve problems. We redefine them. We couldn't find a way to fight the void echoes, so we found a way to talk to them instead. The bridge hummed with power as more ships arrived, not just council vessels, but representatives from every spacefaring race in the galaxy. Humanity's return hadn't brought the conflict the Council had feared. Instead, it had brought something far more powerful: hope. The real work begins now, Sarah announced to the assembled consciousness of multiple species. The bridge is more than just a structure. It's a symbol of what we can achieve when we face the unknown not with fear, but with curiosity and courage. Together, we're not just saving our galaxy, we're expanding the very definition of what consciousness can be. Lyra, Vex, and Zara stood on an observation platform, their scales shifting through colors of wonder as they watched ships from across the galaxy dock with the bridge. Their journey had started with a simple archaeological mission, but it had led them to something far greater, the beginning of a new chapter in the history of consciousness itself. "You know," Zora said, her violet scales glowing brightly, "humans have a saying that seems appropriate for this moment." Through their shared connection with ARA, they all knew the quote she meant. Together, their scales shifting in harmony, they spoke the words that had guided humanity's greatest achievements. The unknown is not our enemy. It's our greatest teacher. Above them, the bridge continued its work, gradually building understanding between forms of consciousness separated by the vast gulf of existence itself. And in that moment, watching different species work together to achieve what each alone thought impossible, they understood why humanity had chosen not to fight, not to hide, but to reach out into the darkness and try to understand what lived there. It wasn't just hope or courage or curiosity